Welcome to SME Biz Hub, the leading integrated digital SME content platform that aggregates all national SME-related information and interventions by all stakeholders to enable SMEs as well as the different entrepreneurship stakeholders make informed decisions. SME Biz Hub is also a policy discourse platform where we unpack and examine current SME policies as well as discuss SME policy options based on current felt challenges of SMEs and startups. Today's episode, we will focus on the recently published draft 2021 budget policy statement by the National Treasury. We will evaluate the proposed SME interventions in the draft budget policy statement, as well as provide alternative policy position and interventions. First things first, so what is the budget policy statement? The budget policy statement is a government policy document that sets out the broad strategic priorities and policy goals to guide the national and county governments in preparing their budgets for the subsequent financial year, as well as over the medium term. How does the process look like in terms of budget making in Kenya? Number one, Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 provides that the National Treasury shall prepare and submit to the Cabinet the budget policy statement for approval. Second, subsequently, the approved budget policy statement is submitted to the Parliament by the 15th of February each year. Third, Parliament shall not later than 14 days after the budget policy statement is submitted, table and discuss a report containing its recommendation and pass a resolution to adopt it with or without amendments. Fourth, the Cabinet Secretary, the National Treasury and Planning shall take into account resolutions passed by Parliament in finalizing the budget for the financial year 2021-2022. Before we take a deep dive on the 2021 draft policy statement, allow me to give context in terms of economic performance, highlighting performance of key sectors. Kenya's economic performance in 2019 was above average as compared to performance of the previous decade, indicating a steady upward trajectory. For example, the period 2018-2019 saw the country's economy expand at a rate of 5.9%, which is higher than the years 2008-2012 and 2013-2017, having growth rates of 4.7% and 5.5% respectively. The Kenyan economy, just like other economies, was adversely affected by COVID-19 and the ensuing containment measures put in place by government to curb its spread. Kenyan SMEs bore the greatest brunt, with mortality estimates projected upwards of 80%, especially for the following sectors: wholesale, retail, accommodation, and food services subsectors. And this was majorly due to supply chain disruption, as well as dwindling market, accounting for a big portion of SMEs closing shop. Cognizant that SMEs contribute 33% of Kenya's GDP and the adverse effect of COVID-19 on SME operations, the net effect on the economy was an estimated slowdown of 0.6% in 2020. Looking at sector performance in 2020, agriculture performed fairly well, underpinned on increase in tea production, cane deliveries, milk intake, and fruit export. Service sector contracted by 11% in the second quarter of 2020 compared to a growth of 6.8% in the same quarter in 2019. The decline was largely characterized by substantial contractions in accommodation and food services, education, transport, and storage subsectors. On the flip side, the sector was spared from further contraction by the following subsectors that were more resilient: financial and insurance, ICT, and public administration. Similarly, the industry sector contracted by 1% in the second quarter of 2020 compared to a growth of 5.4% in the same quarter of 2019, with construction subsector providing resilience, while manufacturing, water supply, and electricity experienced contraction. Finally, in terms of credit, private sector credit grew by 8.1% in the 12 months to November 2020, compared to a growth of 7.3% in the year to November 2019. This was supported by recovery in demand with improved economic activity following the easing of COVID-19 containment measures and accommodative monetary policy. Top credit recipient sectors were agriculture, manufacturing, real estate, transport, and communication. Looking at sector performance in 2020, agriculture performed fairly well, underpinned on increase in tea production, cane deliveries, milk intake, and fruit export. Service sector contracted by 11% in the second quarter of 2020 compared to a growth of 6.8% in the same quarter in 2019. The decline was largely characterized by substantial contractions in accommodation and food services, education, transport, and storage subsectors. On the flip side, the sector was spared from further contraction by the following subsectors that were more resilient: financial and insurance, ICT, and public administration. Similarly, the industry sector contracted by 1% in the second quarter of 2020 compared to a growth of 5.4% in the same quarter of 2019, with construction subsector providing resilience, while manufacturing, water supply, and electricity experienced contraction. Finally, in terms of credit, private sector credit grew by 8.1% in the 12 months to November 2020, compared to a growth of 7.3% in the year to November 2019. This was supported by recovery in demand with improved economic activity following the easing of COVID-19 containment measures and accommodative monetary policy. Top credit recipient sectors were agriculture, manufacturing, real estate, transport, and communication. Let's turn our focus to government support to SMEs in 2020, as well as the post-COVID-19 recovery strategy as espoused in the Budget Policy Statement Draft 2021. To backstop SMEs, Kenya's government is currently implementing an economic stimulus program that aims to reset the economy back to 2019 growth trajectory, with examples of such interventions including the Kazi Mtaani program, monetary measures supporting SMEs and private sector enterprises' liquidity, as well as cash transfers to vulnerable groups. More importantly, is the government proposed COVID-19 economic recovery strategy that is currently under development that aims to build on the economic stimulus and other resilience programs, whose aim is to mitigate the negative impact of COVID-19 to the economy and return the economy to a pre-COVID-19 growth trajectory. The strategy has 7 pillars, but we shall focus on the pillar of supporting recovery and growth of SMEs. The strategy proposes to prioritize renewed growth in MSMEs, which have been severely impacted by the measures put in place by the government to contain the spread of the pandemic, such as restriction on movements and curfews, which has led to significant loss of business by SMEs. The strategy proposes to prioritize implementing the following key program: MSME Credit Guarantee Scheme, MSME Capacity Building Program, Finance Plus 5K Initiative, MSME ICT Platform to improve productivity and competitiveness of SMEs. While these proposed programs are commendable and we encourage all relevant stakeholders to support government, cognizant of the important role SMEs play in the economy and the depth and breadth of the impact of COVID-19 on SMEs, more effort must be exerted to support SMEs. Our proposed SME support policy recommendations are broken down into the following key areas: enactment of Startup Bill, establishment of a TVET subsector MSME public-private partnership framework, improvement on ease of doing business, access to finance, access to market, and venture building. The ICT sector continues to play a key role in Kenya's economy. For instance, despite service sector contracting by 11% in the second quarter of 2020, ICT among financial services and public administration recorded positive growth. All stakeholders must support current government ICT plans under the current post-COVID-19 economic recovery strategy, but I feel the scope must be broadened in order to capture significant and sustained value in the long run. To do this, Government must fast-track enactment of the startup bill, which has broader focus beyond ICT to include all aspects of innovation by recognizing startups in law, providing incentives to startups to thrive, providing incentives to startup investors, catalyzing decentralized innovation at the counties through interplay of county government, academia, and industry. The net effect of this will be rapid and good quality jobs if Twiga, Sandy, and Cellulant, among other startups, are anything to go by, who are currently supporting over 30,000 micro small enterprises directly. If Kenya was to, for example, have 100 scale-up startups, that will translate to 1 million new jobs annually. The second effect would be increased foreign direct investment inflow, cognizant that in 2019, despite lack of government support, Kenyan startups attracted 17% of all venture capital into Africa. The potential of foreign direct investment can be best illustrated in 2020 when Nigerian startup Paystack got acquired by US-based Stripe for $200 million. The third effect is around innovation, where innovation will be decentralized to counties, hence increased opportunities for successful solving of local solutions by local entrepreneurs. Our second proposal is around establishment of a TVET subsector MSME public-private partnership framework. SMEs in manufacturing can benefit from systemic collaboration through a PPP framework that brings together MSMEs in Juakali sector, both at national and county levels, and TVET subsector. Areas of collaboration between the two would be around practical attachment and employment framework for TVET students to the Juakali sector to enhance gainful employment to millions of Kenyans. Fit-for-purpose curriculum that recognizes prior learning and upskilling of Juakali artisans. Broader collaboration mechanisms between Juakali and TVET institution. For example, commercial partnership on utilization of centers of excellence within TVET institutions. The third area is around improving ease of doing business. Kenya has made great strides in regulatory reforms to ease doing business for SMEs in Kenya. There must be a renewed focus on improving the following key institutions and integrate them to the ongoing centralization of services to ensure that they are able to effectively and efficiently serve SMEs. These institutions are the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, Kenya Bureau of Standards, Kenya Industrial Estate, Kenya Industrial Research Institute. The fourth area is around access to finance. Access to finance remains a key challenge facing SMEs in Kenya. The following key activities must be taken into consideration. Number one is cash grants. With 79% of SMEs being informal, there is a high likelihood that the stimulus intervention instituted by government in 2020 did not have a significant impact on SMEs. Consideration can be given to a cash grant program to SMEs through their respective associations and circles, chama groups, as well as self-help groups. The second area around access to finance is pending bills. So government must endeavor to clear all pending bills to SMEs, both at the national and county government. The last area around access to finance is a credit guarantee scheme. So the scheme must be fast-tracked and implemented in concert with the Movable Property Securities Acts to ensure that SMEs are able to access finance. Fifth is access to market. Access to market, among other challenges, tops list of challenges faced by SMEs, especially due to COVID-19. Market opportunities for SMEs is at two levels: local and export. Local market for Kenyan SMEs manifest as follows: trading with government through AGPO. Concerted efforts must be taken to ensure that qualifying SMEs get procurement opportunities and are paid on time with no corruption. Second area around access to local market is around leveraging on Uchumi Supermarket to provide market for SMEs. The second area around access to market for SMEs is on export market. SMEs must be facilitated to access export market through the various available channels. Efforts must be made to create awareness of these channels as well as opportunities that lie therein. For example, GeoK agencies must ensure that their market intelligence reports are easily accessible and create awareness about their existence. Export channels for SMEs in Kenya include the EPZA SME Development Program, Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, and finally, East Africa Community. Finally, venture building. Kenyan SMEs have a high mortality rate of 75% within 3 years of inception, with the mortality rate going higher due to the negative effects of COVID-19. The high mortality rate is underpinned on the fact that most SMEs gravitate around subsectors that are high risk in terms of exposure to external shocks. One of these subsectors is wholesale retail, which accounts for 75% of total SME mortality. To minimize risk exposure of SMEs, government must make efforts to build sustainable ventures by doing market intelligence and feasibility studies of ventures with solid business models and allowing SMEs to access them through either county or ward hubs and providing the necessary support. I hope the session has been helpful to all of you, and we invite suggestions for topics that you'd want us to tackle or discuss. You can download the full report on our website www.vifaconsult.co.ke under the SME Insight and Research tab. Remember to subscribe to our channel SME Biz Hub, as well as follow us on social media. Thank you very much and see you next time.